Thanks, Joe Klecker, for joining me here today with the Athletics Illustrated interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And first off, congratulations on the last Friday there making the U.S. Olympic team in the 10,000 meter event.
Yeah, thank you.
So did you go into that race wondering, gee, I wonder if I could do this?
Yeah, so I hit the standard a few weeks prior, and yeah, going into it, I definitely felt pretty confident in my ability to race with those top guys. But you never you never really know how it's going to go until you get out there on the starting line that day.
Speaking of top guys, you're with On Running Club, and I got to ask you how far your allegiance goes because sure you're going with two other Americans in Woody Kincaid and Grant Fisher, and their teammates therefore because it's the top rung, it's the Olympics.
Mhm.
However, they're with a different club. So how far does your allegiance go? Do you have like a B goal that you have to beat those two guys, and then the A goal is actually a medal or something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say that my goals are more like overall place in the race. Like just racing the field. I think that this is kind of that rare race and rare time where you even if someone's on a different team than you kind of have that allegiance. It's like when you look at similarly in other sports like team sports, like basketball at the Olympics, you get players from all different NBA teams, joining together for their countries. And so I would say that once we get to Tokyo, and it's a little different, we don't have a training camp before or anything, but I think there will definitely be a sense of kind of team and some pride amongst us running for Team USA. But um, yeah, in terms of like my goals aren't to beat, one of them in particular or anything like that. My goals are to just to place as high as I can. And if I beat them, I beat them. If they beat me, it just means that hopefully we represented, Team USA really well.
Your race on the Friday there was, it appeared to have a little bit of tactics to it. You've run 27:23, I think. And so can you take me through the race, how that played out?
Yeah, so this 10K was pretty interesting. I mean, you had a lot of runners in that race who didn't quite have that Olympic standard, and obviously the whole goal of the trials is to try and make that team. Everyone I think in that race has that dream, and so the race started out pretty honest. Going after that qualifying standard for the runners who didn't have it. But I don't know if you were in Eugene or not, but it was a bit of a hot evening, about 78 degrees, and there was a pretty decent wind down the back stretch. And so I kind of knew going into it, we probably weren't going to run the standard that day unless it was just a total from the gun effort where everyone wanted to run fast. And so I just kind of hung back early and let those runners go out and try and run the standard. I knew that it would be pretty unlikely that they just go out and run it based on the day. And so but because of that, the race started out pretty fast early on. I mean, our first mile was around 4:20. And so that's definitely moving for 10K well under the standard pace. And then throughout the middle of the race, as those runners started to tire, it got a bit slower. And we came through 5K well off the standard pace, about 13:55. And at that point, I knew it was just racing. I knew there wasn't going to be any heroic efforts from anyone who didn't already have the standard, who was going to hit it that day. And so in my head, that kind of changes the race from a race of 24 athletes down to a race of, I think there were 7 athletes in the race who had the standard. And so that simplifies things quite a bit. But nonetheless, it's still, this 7 runners with the standard are all right there, and you got to beat them. And so it did get a bit tactical then, and my whole focus at that point was just setting myself up to be top 3. I knew once it was slow, it was probably going to wind up at some point, and I was just kind of waiting for that to happen. I was really confident in where I was at, both in my strength to run really fast from the gun, but also in my ability to close really well over the last 400 meters. And so I never really panicked. I just kind of kept processing, how the race was going, and just kept thinking to myself what I need to do to be in that top 3. And so over the last 400 meters, I think I ran about 54 seconds, which is for sure the fastest I've ever closed at 10K, but maybe even faster than I thought I was capable of on that day. I mean, after 6 miles of racing, I was pretty happy with closing that hard. But Yeah, it was definitely a pretty different race from anything I've been in. Certainly a 10K. Both of my ones prior had been really fast from the gun races.
There's a saying or an aphorism: never underestimate the beast that lies within a man's heart. And what can be more appropriate to the last 400 and the 10,000? And you want to get on that Olympic team, and you did it. So I guess the race being having some tactics to it was good mini preparation for an Olympic race.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, my two 10Ks prior had just been really fast from the gun races. And so to have a 10K race where you're actually having to think about not just running as hard as you can, as fast as you can, kind of thinking about placing is certainly good practice going into the Olympics, where again, it's going to be similar to the trials. It could be a really fast race from the beginning, or it could be a really slow race that just closes hard over the last 400 meters. And you don't know that until you're in the race, until you're running. And so to have kind of a run through where you're having to process all that information during a race is really valuable.
So you have lots of people in your corner because not only were your parents um, exceptional athletes with American records and marathon wins, but also you were the first, this disruptive sort of Swiss company on running club. You were the first. You're Dathan's athlete, or he's your coach.
Mhm.
There's a lot going on there, and plus, you have your country behind you now. The athletics fans. And so, do you feel any sense of pressure to perform? Obviously, you do because it's the Olympics, but any other pressure there that you might have that someone else might not have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously all of us for Team USA have the pressure of performing for our country. I think that any athlete that qualifies for the Olympics out of the USA, you got to have pretty high goals just because it's a very hard team to make. And so you have that pressure. But I think personally, um, I have pressure, from, I wouldn't say pressure from Dathan, but he really believes in me. And, so he has these high goals for me. And so I find a lot of, I like to prove him right. When he thinks I can do something, I really like to go out and do it because it just validates him as a coach, and it just validates for everyone on the team. When he says you can do something, when he believes you can do something, you really are capable of it. And so that I feel that a little bit of pressure there, and definitely like from my family. They're so invested in my running career that when I'm out there running, I know that they're always watching my races, and it's just another, like you said, just another pressure to go out and perform. But I think that the best athletes are able to channel that pressure into positive results versus breaking down.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that separates. You know, there's champions everywhere. They just need to be trained properly. But I also think they also need a killer instinct. And there's lots of athletes that probably you grew up with that could have done really well, or got close, but maybe didn't have the killer instinct. But Dathan obviously would have the killer instinct, and as would your parents,
Mhm.
being such great athletes all around. So maybe that's not so much. Maybe pressure isn't the exact right word. Maybe um, the best possible support you could get because of
Yeah.
their killer instinct, and that rubs off on you maybe.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like I know for someone for sure on my team, Oliver Hoare has like a great, like that guy is so good at winning. And for me, it's been great to learn from him, because just seeing how he has that killer instinct almost probably more than any runner I've ever trained with for sure. And so to have him to learn from has been really cool. And that's something I've definitely tried to channel because you need it at these championship races.
Look at the 10,000 now. Just a few years ago, the IOC wanted World Athletics to get rid of it, and now it looks like a very competitive event.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that it definitely draws a different style of racing than the 5K that fans of the sport can appreciate. I think that someone who doesn't really know the sport might think, oh, the 5K, the 10K, it's long distance running, it's all the same. But I think that anyone who's a fan of the sport can appreciate the differences in the two, and realize that they're both valuable to have at an Olympic Games.
Yeah, not to mention your no man's land period in the race is double the length.
Exactly.
Not to get into it, but thank goodness it's a single race now. And
Yeah,
and
I know. I was thinking about that when it used to be the trials. That would be a pretty brutal. I mean, like it's almost like a stage race, like the 10K. It's such a hard event to recover from, and then to come out and do another one. That would be certainly add another variable to that event.
yeah, that's one case where the marketability of the sport. Thank goodness that dictated in this case.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I think it can be hard enough to get non-running fans excited for one 10K, but two, it confuses it. And it's such a long race that you can really throw quite a few athletes in it, and it's going to shake down, and the traffic isn't so much going to be an issue.
Hey, talk about on running. I'm right now testing out the Cloudboom Echo. What a terrific shoe. And I did the Terry early one, and what a fantastic shoe. You could wear it with jeans, and it felt, they weren't a super shoe, the first one, and they felt faster. Certainly these do. Talk about what shoe are you going to wear, and did you wear in the trials, and how do they feel to you as an athlete?
Yeah, so On has been like since they formed our team, they've really been utilizing us in the product development process, in developing a lot of their new trainers, and then our Spike that we're working pretty intensely on right now. And so I've been really loving, like you said, that Cloudboom Echo has kind of been a staple shoe for our team. Right when I joined, we got the first iteration of it, and we had a lot of say in kind of the downfalls of the first prototype, and then now the one that just went to market. We had a lot of input in that, and it's so really cool to see how On's utilizing our team to develop this great product. And same with the training shoes. We had input on certain training shoes, and now to see the updated versions go to market that we might have had a small say in how things were tweaked is really cool. But yeah, I would say in terms of training, I mean, we're pretty much, our whole team is Cloudboom Echoes are like go-to for track stuff, for stuff on the roads. And then, yeah, just a lot of the updated models have been really good. Like the new Cloud Flyer. There's going to be a new Cloud Stratus that we've just started trying out a little bit, and it's a really awesome shoe. But yeah, Spike development is, we had some prototypes that have come through, and then now they're going back to Zurich, and we're critiquing them, and they're trying to get that final product out in hopefully the next couple months. And that's just, again, us giving a lot of feedback, but they want the products to be good. They don't want to just give us something that is just pieced together. And so I'm really excited for that. And if it's anything like the Boom Echo, I think they're going to knock it out of the park. And so yeah, it's definitely a different setup being with On and having so much say in the product development, and I think it's pretty cool to be a part of.
So you had some say. So I want to be able to say to my running buddies, hey, you see these shoes I'm wearing right here? Joe Klecker had influence on this. So what did you suggest for a change that they followed through on?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it was just me, but kind of general consensus with the Cloudboom Echo. The first model we had, the heel, the foam in the heel was way too soft, and for me, it was actually causing quite a bit of Achilles irritation. And so in the updated version, they made that foam quite a bit firmer, and it performs a lot better, but also definitely, like, I'm not having those lower leg issues like I kind of had in the prototype version of it.
Okay, good stuff. How many miles a week are you putting on those Cloudboom Echoes?
Definitely depends on the week in terms of the workouts, but I would say like yesterday we did about 6 miles on the track. So with jogging in between the reps, we were probably putting 6 to 8 miles yesterday. So I would say probably on average like 12-ish miles a week in that shoe. And certainly, in the fall it'll be a little less when we're not on the track as much or doing as intensive workouts. But
well, there you go. So the shoe better work for your Achilles, because if you're only doing 10% of your mileage in that particular shoe, it can be disruptive to the way your heel plants down and you push off, and the angle on that, right?
yeah.
your foot is used to it all the time. So that's a good point. So On as a company, would you call them a disruptor in the marketplace with the Pumas and Adidas and Nikes?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that On is so performance driven. I mean, I think that they're a small enough company that they can put all of their energy into creating the best product. I don't, there's no, it just seems like there's less distance between us athletes and the product development. And so I think that because of that, we're able to innovate pretty quick. I mean, just again, going back to the Boom Echo, that being the first version of that shoe and just seeing where it came from a year ago is like incredible. I mean, I don't think that a lot of companies would be able to move through that development process so quick. And so I would say in that way, On definitely is kind of disrupting that market or disrupting the industry a bit with how much they're utilizing us. And, maybe other brands will catch on and do the same, but I think so far it's working really well. I mean, it seems like the brand is growing like crazy. Whenever I go to the airport, I see so many people wearing them, and I go out and I see so many people wearing On. And even a year ago, I didn't see as many, as I do now. And so I think that what they're doing is really working. And certainly from a performance standpoint, I think that if people can try that Boom Echo shoe out and start to realize how great the performance of their shoes are, they're gonna start believing in it.
It's a terrific shoe. So have you slipped your parents? Because are they still running, first of all?
Yeah, they run, not competitively, but just to stay in shape. And
Have you slipped them some On products?
yeah, my well, so it's nice that me and my dad are the same size. So whenever I wear out a pair of shoes or what I think is worn out, he thinks they still have like another 100 or 200 miles in them. So he always says just hand them down to him so he can use them for a month or two. And so that's been good for him because he's probably tried out all the same shoes I have, just hand-me-down version.
Yeah, well, he's old school, right? So
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
nothing.
He thinks shoes can get 600 miles on them, where I'm like
What?
300 miles. I'm kind of like ready to open the new box.
Yeah. Plus, there's nothing like the look and the feel of a brand new shoe.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of addicting, when you have the new shoes there and your shoes almost worn out, you kind of want to just break them out.
Are you a bit of a gearhead when it comes to shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a running store growing up, so I'm definitely into like
Oh,
the tech of shoes and really, I mean, not as much. I'm not as updated on as I used to be because I don't work at the running store anymore. But when I worked there, yeah, I was big into all the new product and just researching it and understanding all the new foams and everything. That was very interesting to me.
oh, so your feedback to the company was probably well informed. So that's great. So when are you heading over to Tokyo? It must be very soon.
It is July 24th. It would be sooner, but with COVID protocol, we can only get in 5 days before track and field starts. So, yeah, it's a little different than usual. Usual, I think we'd probably head over, in maybe 2 weeks before the race or something. But I'm only gonna be there 5 days before.
Oh, you know what? I thought that all the athletes, because so many are going over already, or going to training camps. I thought that there was some kind of 2 week protocol when arriving. So that's not the case at all then.
No, we have quite a bit of stuff we have to do beforehand. I think it's different depending on where you are. Like certain countries are labeled as higher a risk, and there's different protocols you have to do if you're coming from those countries. But for the US, what we have to do, it's like a number of COVID tests before we leave. And they have all this health reporting apps and stuff like that that we have to do. But yeah, no quarantine for us, which is actually really nice because that would certainly be just another loophole to have to jump through to get to race day.
You'd be a caged tiger walking around that hotel room.
Yeah, for sure.
How was Colorado with the Buffaloes there? How was that for your development as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I think Colorado, one of the reasons I chose to go there is because of how many great athletes have not only gone through there, but gone on to have great careers after Colorado. And so that was one thing I really looked for in the college program. And I think that running at CU is pivotal for kind of where I'm at now and hopefully where I go. I mean, Mark and Heather, their training they get a lot out of you while you're there. But I think that the best thing about their coaching philosophy is setting you up to do really well after school. They're not gonna get every ounce of performance out of you in those 4 to 5 years. They would rather just see steady improvement and hope that you go on and continue to run well after school, which I think is different from a lot of programs, because obviously they have their pressures to have their athletes perform. And so it's really cool that they actually choose to, coach in a more, I guess, manner that promotes longevity versus just instant success.
Well, that's great to hear because, well, Mark Wetmore, right?
Mhm.
That's great to hear because there are athletes that do so well at university level and then just are fried or totally injured or having eating disorders or image disorders. So that's great. And you're right. So speaking of that, and I guess you're a bit of a running geek growing up in it and working in the store and all that. Did you read as a kid, did you read Running with the Buffaloes?
Yeah, so once I committed to CU, I got the book and I read about half of it, and I didn't really actually go through it all the way until my last cross country season. I kind of went through it, and I wanted to compare the workouts we were doing to what they did, back in the day. And so that was the only time that I went through it from start to finish, was actually my senior year of college, in that cross country season, which was really cool to compare, what Mark was prescribing, 20 years ago or so, and what he's doing now.
Yeah, for
There's a
sure.
lot of parallels, to what they were doing. So
There's that 10 miler. Was it the bacon strip? I got the name right?
I don't remember a lot. Honestly, the workouts that we did were a lot easier than what they did. I think that Mark toned up a lot back because their workouts were much more insane.
All right. Well, thank you for this, and good luck to you in Tokyo. Have a great time there and a great race. And I suppose you're used to empty stadiums now.
Yeah, no, thank you. It'll be, like I said, maybe my first Olympic experience, but I don't really know what to expect. So yeah, empty stadium, I guess, is kind of parallel what my whole pro career has been like so far. So it'll be much more the same.
More the same. All right. Well, thank you again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers.